thoughts up, Mike?
I think I already know the answer to this, but if you had to break down like the different aspects of D&D, right, and like the different things that you can do with your character, what is like your all-time favorite thing about character processing, like in terms of like the creation process?
Okay, so like build wise, like you're building your character, you know, you're like planning out your level ups and all that.
Yeah.
And your character creation at the beginning for the beginning. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I've definitely got to go with choosing my race.
Really? Because I like to decide whether or not I'm gonna like multi-class and stuff.
Yeah, no. For me, it's easily Feats. Easily.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting.
I love me some good old Feats. ASIs, who needs them? Just roll good. Don't be a scrub. Give me some Feats. That's what I want.
Yeah. Welcome to Travelers, Tips, and Tales. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jake.
And today we are without Ben. Things
sad.
happened, life happens, you know, people have things come up unexpectedly. So we're doing this one without him today, but that is fine. We are able to adapt as always.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, today we're talking about the Feats from Tashas Cauldron of Everything. It's a book that was released kind of late last year. I believe it was like October or November.
Yeah.
And it's a book that we left a overall review on our YouTube, so go ahead and check that out on our YouTube channel. It's pretty great, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Ignore the off-center picture frame.
Also, ignore us in that video saying that we'll do more and more videos covering the rest of it more thoroughly.
Yeah.
But I guess this is kind of us doing that. I think we're just gonna
just not in video form.
Yeah, we're just gonna work them into the podcast episodes because, believe it or not, it's kind of hard to get all three of us in the same room sometimes. So, yeah.
Turns out when you're three grown adults, it's hard to work a schedule out when you have work and other responsibilities.
I find it funny though that it's not as hard for us to schedule getting us in front of our computers. But us like actually seeing each other in person, way harder.
Oh yeah. I don't understand it either. It's just how it works. I think it's because we know that if we're in person, we're gonna hang out for like a 5-hour period.
That's true. That one time we recorded that video, we played Warhammer for like, or no, we didn't even play. We just built minis.
We recorded that video. We recorded our intro video.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recorded our intro video afterwards. Or no, well, was it after or before?
I don't remember.
We recorded them both the same day.
Yeah. And then we built Warhammer minis.
we spent the next 2.5 hours building Warhammer minis. And then Jake went home, and then me and Ben played Warhammer.
No, then me and you both went home for a while.
Yeah, that's right.
You went back, and I couldn't.
Yeah, because Ben had some other stuff that he had to do.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're not just talking about Tasha's feats in general. We're talking about our favorites. There are 15 feats to choose from, and believe me, Jacob has probably scoured over all of these heavily.
I've done a good reading.
I will admit I have not given them much thought ever since our Tasha's review, but there are some that are just incredible and that I have paid attention to because of how useful they are, whether it be mechanically or in terms of roleplay. So let's get right into this. All right, Jake, what is the first feat that you want to talk about?
I think that every single one of our listeners who has listened to one of the episodes before this one could probably see this one coming. I'm picking my first feat here is Skill Expert. It is a fancy feat that gives you even more expertise. And I say more because I always play a rogue anyways, so
rogue and monk.
Yeah, monks don't get it, unfortunately, but yeah. So Skill expert. You have honed your proficiency with particular skills, granting you the following benefits. This is one of those simpler feats, along with like what's it called? Shoot. It's like reliable or something like that. I can't remember. It's the one where it gives you proficiency. You get to add one to one of your ability scores, and you get proficiency in that saving throw.
Oh
like,
yeah.
It's like one of those like simpler feats where it's like it's really straightforward and simple, but like it's still just so useful. But so you take this feat and you get to add one to any of your ability scores up to 20, to a max of 20, of your choice. There's no limitations on which one you can choose. You also get proficiency in one extra skill of your choice. It could be any skill. And also, you could choose one skill in which you have proficiency with. This could be the one that you just took from using this feat, or any of the other skills that you've already been proficient in from your class and whatnot, or background. You could pick any of your skills that you already don't have expertise, and you can pick one of them, and you gain expertise in that skill, which means that your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that you make with it. The skill you choose must be one that isn't already benefiting from the feature, such as expertise, that doubles your proficiency bonus. Sorry, rogues and bards, you can't get even bigger busted numbers.
Yeah.
But you can get more busted numbers. And that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, that is pretty solid.
It's pretty straightforward, but it is very effective.
Yeah, and I thought about taking that one, but then I was like, I'd be robbing you of that. But I mean, it's useful, especially for rogues and bards.
I mean, I would argue it's even more useful for every other class, just because you get a little bit. I think Tashas did a great job with these feats of spreading the love a little bit. Of you can kind of like dabble some things that you might like from other classes without actually having to like fully multi-class into that subclass or that class or whatever. Because now you can be a monk, like who is exceptionally, excels at a lot of dexterous things and whatnot, much like a rogue in multiple aspects, but you don't have any expertises. You're not like extremely super amazing good, stupid good at certain things, and you could still take skill expert and kind of pull that little tiny aspect without actually having to, multi-class.
Yeah, and it's kind of a variant edition of skilled, which is you get 3 proficiencies in any skills or tools of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But skill expert, yeah, I feel like is kind of a variant / step above, because you do get that expertise.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think my first favorite is definitely Fey Touched. And this is really good, and I really like it because it basically allows me to take on an ability that I would get from playing a very specific race.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fantastic to me, because I no longer have to play that very specific race and sub-race in order to benefit from some of these things.
Yeah.
So, Fey Touch reads like this. Your exposure to the Feywild's magic has changed you, granting you the following benefits. Increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 to a max of 20. You also get to learn the Misty Step spell and 1 first level spell of your choice. The first level spell must be either divination or enchantment. You can cast each of these spells without expending a spell slot, and once you cast either of these spells this way, you cannot cast that spell in this way again until you finish a long rest. So basically, say you took a random first level spell and Misty Step, and then you cast Misty Step. That's basically saying you can't cast Misty Step in that way again, but you can still cast that other spell.
Yeah.
So you can cast each one that way. Mm-hmm. And then it also continues that you can also cast these spells using spell slots that you have of the appropriate level. The spell's spellcasting ability is the ability increased by this feat. So imagine being a wizard, taking Fey Touched, and using Charisma.
You fool! What have you done?
Because you no longer need your intelligence, apparently.
Yeah, I like this feat a lot, just because, I don't know, it's just like Misty Step is a really good spell. You get a vast choice between the other first level spell that you choose, because you can choose anything from divination or enchantment.
Yeah.
There's some pretty wackadoo spells in that realm there, that category. So I think it's cool. Yeah, I think you could do a lot with this, and yeah, it's kind of cool just being able to get a little bit of Eladrin kind of Feyish use and just dabble it into your character that is maybe, I don't know, like a dwarf or something.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you are one of those people, albeit these are rare, that thinks Misty Step is an overrated spell and you hate it, I just want to tell you a quick little story, all right? So we were playing D&D this weekend. In fact, it was yesterday. Me and one other person in our party, Dale, who was on here for our Warlock episode.
This is the Royal Flush game. This is we're talking about Iggy and Selfie here.
Yeah, we both play Eladrin, and we got into a fight at one point with a few people, and my character was grabbed and grappled. But then, because Eladrin can do different effects with their Misty Step, so you're not going to exactly get the same use out of this Misty Step, but still, this shows how good it is. Her character, Selfie, came up to my character while being grappled and just bopped me on the nose, which allowed her to use Misty Step on me, sending me out of the grapple. Mm-hmm. That same turn, I then threw a spell at somebody across the room and then used my ability of Misty Step to Misty Step right next to them and get even further away from that grapple. We used Misty Step twice in that round, once each, and we got so much done. We got me out of the grasp of somebody who was very much stronger than me and could have held me as long as he wanted to be honest. And then I was able to do damage to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, Misty Step is just a great skill, or it's a great spell. It's the fall to many grapplers.
Yeah. Eladrin, I will say, Eladrin using Misty Step is cool because they have a couple different effects depending on what season they are.
Yeah, they got a little extra flavor in there.
Yeah, because their Misty Step will do different things depending on whether they choose to be in summer, winter, autumn, or fall. Sorry, spring, not fall, because autumn is fall.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. I forgive you, Michael.
Thank you. Our viewers don't.
Maybe we should move on.
Let's move on to this before I make more of a fool.
My next feat that I'm touching up on is one that maybe the viewers didn't expect, at least from me. But I chose Poisoner. I think it's pretty neat. You can prepare and deliver deadly poisons, granting you the following benefits. When you make a damage roll that deals poison damage, it ignores resistance to poison damage. That is kind of crazy right there, honestly. That alone, kind of convincing. You can apply poison to a weapon or piece of any munition as a bonus action rather than an action. That is great, especially if you're like some type of ranged character. You can bonus action, dip that bad boy in some poison, and an action, throw your knife or shoot your arrow or whatever, and every round you're popping off with this poison. Sounds amazing. And they're taking that full damage because screw you, dwarves.
The only time that they wouldn't is if they have straight up immunity.
Yeah.
Because it does not have anything to do with immunity. If they're immune, they're immune. So be it.
Yeah. But that is not all, I say. You ask, what else could there possibly be? That sounds so good already. I say there is more. You also gain proficiency with the Poisoner's Kit if you don't already have it, which honestly at this point I doubt that you don't. I mean, if you had an extra tool proficiency, I'm guessing, and you already are lining up to take this feat, I'm guessing you probably already took. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. I feel like personally,
yeah.
if you were looking at this feat and you wanted to take this in the future, you would avoid taking proficiency in that because you're going to get it regardless.
Yeah. With 1 hour of work using a poisoner's kit and expending 50 gold pieces worth of materials, you can create a number of doses of potent poison equal to your proficiency bonus. Once applied to a weapon or a piece of ammunition, which you can do with the bonus action, of course, the poison retains its potency for 1 whole minute or until you hit with the weapon or ammunition. When a creature takes damage from the coated weapon or ammunition, the creature must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or take 2d8 poison damage and become poisoned until the end of your next turn. Normally in D&D, I think normal poison does 3d6, which can arguably be better, but it also doesn't give them the poisoned condition, which gives you, if I'm remembering correctly, that gives you disadvantage on all ability checks.
Yeah, it does, and I think saving throws as well.
Is it saving throws as well? Even better.
Don't quote me on that, but I believe so.
You know what that means then, Michael? If they have disadvantage on the saving throws, then the second arrow that you hit them is going to more likely hit harder because they're less likely to make that save.
Well, and here's the thing. So you mentioned that poison is typically 3d6. This is 2d8. Now, 3d6, sure, you're guaranteed a better minimum damage, but this has a slightly higher range of damage that you can do. So this is better in my opinion. Yeah,
I mean, damage-wise, normal poison is better, but...
I was wrong.
Yeah, damage-wise, normal poison is better, but, I mean, overall, I think this poison is better just because it lasts longer, right? It also gives the poisoned status effect, which I just looked up is not saving throws, but it is attack rolls and ability checks, which is also great. Yeah. You get the 2d8 and they're poison. So, I mean, it's just, like, stupid easy. Like, good feat, you know?
Now, here's the thing. You mentioned when you were first bringing up that your feat was poisoner, you mentioned that people wouldn't really expect that from you. So, I want to clarify. Yes, Jake mains rogue. However, his typical rogue is not like an assassin.
Yeah.
His rogue that he is most well known for is definitely not an assassin or a poisoner.
No.
He likes to use some arcane trickster.
Yeah, he's more arcane adept than anything else.
Yeah, he's an arcane trickster rogue.
Yeah, I decided at the beginning that I wanted to make my life as difficult as possible, and I chose easily the worst subclass for rogue.
Knowing at the time that it was the worst, though.
I was like, ooh, I could cast spells? Cool. Anyways. What's your next feat, Mike?
So yeah, my next one is along very similar lines of Fey Touched, and I thought that was fitting that I go over both of them. So this next one is called Shadow Touched. Your exposure to the Shadowfell's magic has changed you, granting you the following benefits. Increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 to a maximum of 20. So far, we're off to the same start as Fey Touched.
Yeah.
But then you learn the invisibility. God, dude, I cannot talk today. You learn the invisibility spell in one first level of your choice. The first level spell must be from illusion or necromancy. Ooh. And the rest is the exact same as Fey Touch, where you can cast each one without expending a spell slot once per long rest. And you can also cast them using spell slots of the appropriate level. And the spellcasting ability is the ability increased by the feat. Yeah.
But oh boy! Remember earlier when I said divination and enchantment, they got some baller spells to choose from.
Yeah, now you got illusion and necromancy.
Yeah. Shadow Touch took a step up.
And imagine taking both of those feats.
Mm-hmm.
You've now gotten 4 free spells.
Yep.
That are arguably 2 of them that are guaranteed for you to take are really good spells.
Yeah.
And the other 2 you can definitely make be really good spells.
Yeah. A really good thing to keep note of here as well is that neither of these feats have the prerequisite of you having to know spellcasting already.
Not at all.
You can take these as anything. This would have been a much better alternative to me wanting to dabble a little magic into my rogue rather than taking the absolute garbage that is Arcane Trickster.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I get a lot less spells and whatnot, but I didn't,
You didn't really cast a whole lot of them.
I could have just dabbled into it like this, and it would have been very similar.
Your typical spell was knock.
Yeah, I wouldn't get as high into the spells. I mean, it'd be different, but I mean, it's a pretty good alternative to dipping your whole subclass into these, and instead just using feats.
And the other nice thing
with OG PHB feats that also add spells to your arsenal.
And here's the really nice thing with these 2 feats is, as opposed to being, for example, an Arcane Trickster Rogue, whereas you have to pick from the wizard spell list, these aren't bound to a single spell list. You can choose literally any spell in the game. As long as they come from those schools of magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So if you want to take Toll the Dead, go for it.
Yup.
And I encourage it.
Yeah. It's great. If only there was... Oh, wait, never mind, because it's a 2nd level spell. I was going to say, if only one of them was Conjuration, because then someone that isn't a paladin could finally cast Find Steed.
Well, I mean, you can.
It has to be a 1st level, right? 1st level spells?
With these, yes. However, if you are a bard...
Yeah. Or...
Then you can just take, at certain levels, 2 spells from any spell list.
Or Magical Adept, right? That one you can pull spells.
Yeah.
It just has to be the same. So you'd have to pull only paladin spells, but I mean, still, you could be a fighter that is a cavalier that summons your own horse, so you don't actually have to have a stupid horse that you actually have to keep track of all the time. And if it dies, it's totally fine. You just cast another spell and he's back again. Michael, I might have a new character coming up.
Or just be a cavalier fighter that has a druid in the party.
Hey, can you give me a new horse? Mine died again. Anyways.
I mean, sure. Use his shape change to become a horse.
That's great.
Anyways, what's your next feat, Jake?
My next feat is Chef. I think Chef was a great addition to the additional feats that come with Tashas. But with Chef, you get, time mastering, the culinary arts have paid off. And when you take this feat, you get the following benefits. You get to increase your Constitution, heck yeah, or Wisdom, also pretty good, score by 1 to a maximum of 20. You also gain proficiency with cook's utensils if you don't already have it. Also, as part of a short rest, you can cook special food, provided you have ingredients and cook's utensils on hand. You can prepare enough of this food for a number of creatures equal to 4 plus your proficiency bonus at the end of the short rest. Any creature who eats the food and spends 1 or more hit dice to regain hit points regains an extra 1d8 hit points. Michael, could you please tell me the average party size for 5th edition's Dungeons & Dragons?
I believe the average party size is 4 to 5.
4 to 5, maybe even 6 or 7. Now, Michael, please tell me, how many of these little treats can you make again in this feat?
Certainly. You can make 4 plus your proficiency bonus.
And now, Michael, could you please tell me what your proficiency bonus is at level 4, the soonest that you could take this feat? Or even level 1 if you're human?
I believe that would be a 2.
Oh, so it sounds like right off the bat, literally you could take this feat as soon as possible, and you could already use this feat to profit your entire party all at once. Everybody gets a D8 every short rest. I'm making some snacks. We're eating grub, and we're getting health back.
And here's the thing. If you're playing in a small party of 2 or 3 people, everybody gets more.
Yeah. And you know what's even better? You know what's the best part about all of this, Michael? That's not the end of the feat. It really seems like it is, but it's not.
What?
There's a whole nother thing that you get with this feat. With 1 hour of work, or when you finish a long rest, so that's once a day that you could do this. Like, that's just one every day that you always have an opportunity to do this. You can cook a number of treats equal to your proficiency bonus. These special treats last 8 hours after being made. A creature can use a bonus action to eat one of those treats to gain temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. Now, that doesn't really sound like too much, but this is quick healing really easily. This sounds like an amazing thing to be able to pick up somebody that's unconscious, because they last for 8 hours.
You know what this is? This is a free healing word.
This is, yeah, kind of. I mean, this is like a free, like, generous paladins lay on hands, where they give you a couple instead of just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you get, like, scratched or something. You don't take too much damage, but, you know, you're still a little wounded. So you might... I mean, they're temporary hit points. You can eat them right away, and you just have a little bit of extra fluff on top of your normal HP.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
I would have 100% accepted this feat if it didn't have the last bullet point. I would still argue it's a good feat. But no, I get a little bit more out of it.
Here's the thing. So imagine you're level 1. Somebody in your party is a human variant that was able to take this feat.
Mm-hmm.
You are now able to just have more hit points than any level 1 would typically have.
Yeah.
Actually, than any level 1 would have, because you have max hit points at level 1. You have the max hit die plus your con.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, by some godly reason and by some godly luck, you have a 20 in your con and you're a barbarian, you have 17 hit points, and then you eat one of these, now you have 19. You're basically a level 2 barbarian.
You're on your way there. You're doing great.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Or like maybe even a level 3 anything else.
Now, just imagine being a barbarian taking this feat.
Yeah. I mean,
then you're that meme of like that really big black dude that's super buff in like a chef's hat.
Oh my goodness. I love this feat a lot just because I always like anytime when I'm like during building my character, anytime I have something that's like you get a tool proficiency, or not a tool, but like you know, like those like artisan tools. That's the thing I was looking for. You get artisan tools proficiency, and I'm like, what do I want to be this guy's like hobby? Like, what is this adventurer doing on their downtime? You know, like I could like do brewers. You know, I'm not a dwarf, and there's a dwarf in the party, so he's probably gonna want to be doing that, or you know, or some other stuff. I don't know. But I was like, one thing that always I like is always understandable to me is like in an adventuring party, these travelers, someone has to make food all the time. They don't eat rations every day, you know, because we all know we're not buying rations every day. So at some point we're making food. Maybe there's an outlander in the party and they're hunting a bunch of stuff, but I don't think we're just having charred rabbit every night, you know? So it makes sense to me that somebody in the party is carrying around a frying pan or something in their their pack, and you know, they cook up some nice grub. So I'm always okay with just being like, I've got an extra artisan's proficiency. I'm gonna take some cook's utensils proficiency, because you know what? Why not? My guy knows how to cook.
Yeah, and like at the beginning of this episode, I talked about how some of the feats increase like roleplay potential and some increase mechanical potential. This is a best of both worlds.
It really is.
You can roleplay actually like cooking a meal and stuff in game, and then you benefit from it mechanically in terms of health points.
100%.
It's just great.
It is so great.
But moving on, my first two feats, they focused on, giving you some spells and stuff and giving you the ability to use spells. My next one is more giving you more potential with your spells.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Metamagic Adept. Have you ever wanted to be a sorcerer, but you didn't want to actually be a sorcerer? Mm-hmm. What's wrong with you, first of all? But second, I've got the solution.
Not really, never, no.
So this one does have a prerequisite to take this feat. You either have to be able to spellcast or have the Pack Magic feature. And if you took like Shadow Touched or Fey Touched, you technically have spellcasting.
That is true. You have the ability.
At least that's how I would rule it. It'd be kind of up to the DM, but I would rule that you have spellcasting.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. If I was the DM, I don't know. I might say no, because the things are literally named in all the spellcasting classes. The ability is named spellcasting, so
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But Metamagic Adept, so you've learned how to exert your will on your spells to alter how they function. You learn 2 Metamagic options of your choice from the Sorcerer class. You can use only one Metamagic option on a spell when you cast it, unless the option says otherwise. Whenever you reach a level that grants the Ability Score Improvement feature, you can replace one of these Metamagic options with another one from the Sorcerer class. If you decided you liked one and then it didn't turn out to be as useful as you wanted, you can change it.
I love it when things let me do this.
Yeah, and you need sorcery points to be able to use Metamagic. So this also gives you 2 sorcery points to spend on Metamagic. These points are added to any sorcery points you have from another source, but can be used only on Metamagic. So you can't use them to regain spell slots like a sorcerer can. Mm-hmm. And you regain all spent sorcery points when you finish a long rest. I really like this as a sorcerer, because now you have more sorcery points.
Yeah.
Given these 2 in particular, you can only use for Metamagic. But that's still a whole well of Metamagic points, sorcery points that you can use.
On top of that, though, you also get 2 new forms of Metamagic that you already have, that you have in addition to your arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't get all of the Metamagics to cast with as a sorcerer already. You're already limited in that sense. So you also not only get more fuel to use your Metamagic, right? The stuff that you use your Metamagic with, but you also get more things to be able to use your sorcery points on,
Yeah, you originally only get 2 Metamagic options.
And you get more throughout your class, but now you get them a little bit faster.
You get them a little bit faster, or maybe you got a bunch of them before. But now you have some ones that you want to get that you just don't have enough room for them. Exactly. Now you can get them.
Why not have all of them?
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic, man.
Yep.
In fact, I'm gonna double check. I can't remember if they added Metamagic options in here. They did. They did add 2 new ones.
They did add 2 new ones?
Yeah, they added Seeking Spell and Transmuted Spell, which eventually either you can look those up yourselves, or we will be going over the subclasses and stuff that were added in here, as well as all the additional options and stuff.
I think we'll probably, there's so many of them, we'll probably have a whole episode to cover class variants.
Yeah.
Class features, right?
Yeah,
because
everything every class got additional features that are optional to use.
Yeah, Tasha's had a bunch of these, even more so than Feats. It had, there's new invocations, there's new fighting styles, there's new class feature variants. Instead of taking this, you can take this, which is literally an entirely different ability. Yeah.
Well, and it's not even just an instead of; it's you can
there's
take
also
it
additional
as well
ones.
as.
Yeah.
So I think that's super neat that Tashas did that.
We'll probably try and cover it all in one episode. Or
yeah, we'll definitely be getting into those.
Yeah.
But that is Metamagic Adept.
Yeah, moving on from Metamagic Adept onto my next feat here that I have chosen. as one of my favorite Tasha's feats. And I couldn't go past without letting one of these two feats be picked. And I'm talking about the telepathic and telekinetic feats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to cover one of them more in detail, though, and that is telekinetic. You learn to move things with your mind, which is, that's what telekinesis is and all that. But yeah, you get to increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 to a max of 20. Awesome. Sounds great. You learn the mage hand cantrip. You can cast it without verbal or somatic components, and you can make the spectral hand invisible, which is great, because now you can, like, pickpocket people and whatnot, because, they don't see the hand. It's invisible, right? It's all based off of how skillfully you can pluck that coin out of their pocket or whatever. I don't know. If you already know this spell, the range is increased by 30 feet when you cast it. That is great. Also, its spellcasting ability is the ability you increased by this feat. I hate to break this to you guys, but that doesn't really matter, because Mage Hand doesn't really use any ability scores to cast it. Like, it's just, you just make it. It doesn't have anything that has attack rolls or saving throws or anything like that. It's just you cast it. So that doesn't affect it that much, I'm not going to lie. Which is pretty great. But also, when you take the telekinetic feat, you also get this other feature, which is, as a bonus action, you can try to telekinetically shove one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. When you do so, the target must succeed on a strength saving throw, obviously DC 8 plus your proficiency plus your ability modifier increased by this feat, or be moved 5 feet towards you or away from you. A creature can willingly fail this save. That's pretty neat. I always like things that let me try and push around people, especially in combat.
Yeah, it can be really fun.
Also very useful that this is a bonus action to do, so you're also doing this on top of probably an action to cast a spell, because this isn't casting a spell or anything. This is just an ability that you get. So you can do this and cast a spell during that same turn.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, though, you might want to increase something that is kind of a high stat here, because obviously the DC here is using whatever you use to increase whatever ability score you increase with the feat. So, it's probably be smart if you're a wizard to increase intelligence, or if you're, a wisdom class, increase wisdom, or if you're a charisma class, increase charisma, because it's also just easier when you have all these different things that your DCs for the different things that you use are all the same number rather than a bunch of different ones. Because then every time the DM, whenever you try to do something, he's like, "What's the DC?" And you go, "It should be 15. Wait a second, let me look that up real quick." And then
Sorry,
you take,
let me do a quick calculation.
Yeah, and then you take it always takes a little bit, embarrassingly too long, because you're, under pressure and you're, trying really hard to do it quickly, but then it just makes you do it longer, take longer to do it, and you're looking up, you're trying to look up the feature on your phone, and you can't figure it out, so you go to your character sheet, you're looking if you written it down. Of course you didn't write it down, so then you're you open a book for a second, and you're like, okay, it says, okay, it says this thing, and then you, trying to do the math really quickly in your head, but it always takes a little bit too long, so you're like, what's 8 plus 4, my proficiency bonus? And it's obviously 12, but you can't get there quite yet because you're under so much pressure. And then you also got to tack on your mod, and then you're like, it's actually 14, DM. He passed.
If you can't tell, Jake's had moments like these.
I do this when I have one DC.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shoot, what is my DC? Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh man. Moving on.
Yeah, telekinetic. It's a pretty good feat.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. So sticking along, I had to do Fey and Shadow Touch because they were both very similar. Same thing here. I had to do Metamagic, and I have to do Adept. Or, not Adept. Gosh dang it. Adept is the second part of it. Eldritch Adept. I told you, man, I can't talk today. I don't know what it is.
Do you want to rerun that whole line? You
Nope.
can rerun that whole
Nope.
line.
I'm editing and keeping that in, and I'm probably keeping this in too. Eldritch Adept. So the prerequisite is the same. You either need spellcasting or packed magic feature. Okay. Studying occult lore, you have unlocked eldritch power within yourself. You learn one Eldritch Invocation option of your choice from the Warlock class. If the invocation has a prerequisite of any kind, you can choose that invocation only if you're a Warlock who meets it. Whenever you gain a level, you can replace the invocation with another one from the Warlock class. Once again, I think this works especially well if you're already a Warlock. You get an extra invocation.
Yeah. This one, I would argue that this one is a lot worse than Metamagic if it weren't for some of the Warlock invocations. Just because, Metamagic just seems like at a distance when you look at them, it looks like it's a better feat, right? Because it's got more words on it. Mm. More words equals better feat, right?
More words equals more better.
Yeah, more bullet points even equals even more better than before better, right? But then you take a second and you look at some Eldritch invocations compared to the vast, expansive, longer list than there are of Metamagic, right? Metamagic is only like 10 or 12 with other supplements also adding on to them, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Eldritch invocations, there's I want to say 30 of them across different books. And then that's not even counting if you start looking into Unearthed Arcana or something, if your DM allows that. Oh my goodness, there's so many of these things. And some of them are really good, just super simple stuff. There's a bunch of ones where you could just cast low level, a specific low level spell at will, or maybe you could cast a certain low level spell once per day or something like that. There's a bunch of these things. There's also other ones that are just beneficial. You could just get proficiency in perception or persuasion and deception, or you can get dark vision out to 120 feet, which is way more than anyone else reasonably has, but you get better because you got sugar daddy now.
Yeah, and once again, just like with Metamagic, Tashas adds more. Tashas adds 8 invocations.
It adds one of my favorite invocations, actually, and that is Eldritch Mind, which is so simple but so effective. You get advantage on all concentration checks. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. If you're taking an Eldritch Invocation, one, you already have to have spellcasting, so concentration checks is already important to you. Imagine if you're a transmutation wizard that also takes this. You get to shift around your weird transmuter stone and give you proficiency in con mods whenever you want to help with your concentration checks, and you can also just take that invocation for free for the cost of 1 feat, right? That sounds like a good deal.
Well, and here's the thing. So if you're going to use this feat to take an invocation, I wouldn't necessarily take that one, because you could also just as easily take the feat Warcaster.
That's true.
Which does the same thing, but also gives you some other things on top of that.
Yeah.
But
that was just one example of how good some of these invocations are.
But the reason I really like this for Warlocks is because Warlocks, if you're familiar with them, you don't get a whole lot of spell slots. So you're kind of relying on invocations to do a lot of your stuff, along with, the staple Eldritch Blast. So having an extra invocation is always good.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I can agree with that, too.
And both of these, Eldritch Adept and Metamagic Adept, I personally would allow you to take these feats as many times as you feel you want to.
Yeah, you could just keep taking them and get more and more.
Yeah. So those ones I had to do because they go hand in hand, just like Fey Touch and Shadow Touched. Yeah. What is your next thing, Jake?
My last feat that I'm covering today. Gotcha! It's not 1 feat. I'm covering 3 feats.
What?
You guys, you really thought that we're 45 minutes into this episode, and you thought we weren't going to talk about Slasher, Crusher, and Piercer? Are you kidding me? These feats are so good. So good.
Yeah.
We just decided to bulk them all into one read over.
We felt they were necessary to cover all three, but we didn't want to like dedicate our own list to those three.
So, have faith in me here. I'm going to try and read through all three of these feats super fast here, all right? We're starting off with Crusher because it's alphabetically first. Crusher, you increase strength or constitution. Great. These are all basically like melee class. Like if you're taking this, you're probably a melee class because let's face it, spellcasters, you're not likely dealing bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. So let the melee boys shine for a minute here, right? So you increase strength or con by 1. Important for melee classes. Sounds great. By 1 to a max of 20. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals bludgeoning damage, you can move it 5 feet to an unoccupied space provided that the target is no more than one size larger than you. Great! Another way that I could push people around in combat. I love it. When you score a critical hit that deals bludgeoning damage to a creature, attack rolls against that creature are made at advantage until the start of your next turn. That sounds amazing. I crit. And also, now, my friends are more likely to crit on that same guy. Get 'em, boys. Next feat. Page turn. Piercer. You increase strength or dexterity to a maximum of 20. Sounds amazing. Piercers are more likely to use dexterity, so it's great that they did dex instead of con this time. I'm so happy. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack roll that deals piercing damage, you can re-roll one of the attack's damage dice, then you must use the new roll. That sounds awesome. I hate shooting stuff with my bow and rolling a 1, and now I have to use that 1. Screw that. I'ma re-roll it. Now it's a 6. I'm so happy. When you score a critical hit that deals piercing damage to a creature, you can roll 1 additional die when determining the extra piercing damage that target takes. That sounds like I get 3d6 when I shoot someone with my bow instead of 2d6. I am so happy right now. Alright, next feat. Slasher. Increase strength or dexterity by 1. Also great. All those short swords and whatnot. Use dex. Thank you for including dex this time rather than con. I'm still happy. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals slashing damage, you can reduce the speed of that target by 10 feet until the start of that next turn. You cut that guy so bad that he has a limp now. Congratulations. He is less effective on his turn now. That's basically every turn because this is just when you deal slashing damage, people. Listen up. This is good stuff. When you score a critical hit that deals slashing damage to a creature you grievously wounded, until the start of your next turn, that target has disadvantage on all attack rolls. That sounds so good! Oh my gosh, nothing hurts more than a bad boss boy whomping on your tushy. How do I prevent that? When I crit, I get to stop him from whomping on my tushy as much, because he has disadvantage on attack rolls. It all makes sense. All of these are so good. Oh my goodness. And it's just so good because they're basically always in effect. Because if you're a martial class, you're always trying to deal slashing or bludgeoning or piercing damage. And you almost always get to benefit from these feats.
Well, and so, okay, here's the thing. When I play melee, I'm typically in people's faces either slashing or crushing, right?
Yeah.
I would go out of my way to create a class that could utilize Piercer, because imagine Piercer if, you are a barbarian. Sure, doesn't make the most sense until you realize that you get extra dice on your crits, and the fact that you get even more extra dice from Piercer on your crits makes it even better.
Yeah.
And then, to top it off there, with the being able to re-roll attack damage dice, imagine you also have Great Weapon Master that allows you to re-roll 1s and 2s. So you're re-rolling your 1s and 2s first, and then you utilize that part of Piercer.
Mm-hmm. Hey, guess what, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm rolling up a barbarian with a lance right now. Not really, but I mean, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Michael,
it's just fantastic.
Michael.
Yeah.
Why you used to be an adventurer like me? What happened? You got shot in the knee and you lost 10 feet per that 6 seconds.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Case closed.
I will admit, slasher is really good that you can reduce their speed and you can give them disadvantage on attack rolls.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Crusher's arguably one of the best just because you crit and now everybody else has advantage on that one poor guy. Oh my goodness. I pity that man. He's so done.
The only thing that stops me from wanting to take Crusher above Piercer is the fact that you can't get attack of opportunity on somebody that is forced out of your attack space.
That's true.
If you could still get an attack of opportunity on that would be so good and so broken.
I mean, that is incredibly broken because that's the part that just happens if you hit a creature.
Yeah.
That deals bludgeoning damage. So you would hit them, push them out, and then with your reaction get to hit them again, and then that hit would also push them farther. Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense.
Hey man, don't hate me for just strategizing.
Also,
and optimizing.
What's the man got to do to? How many features does it take of me pushing people around without them being willing? For me to finally push somebody over a cliff or off into a hole or something. That's all I want to do. All I want to do is yank people off of walls.
Dude, just use your action, hit them with Crusher, it pushes them back 5 feet, and then you use your bonus action with your mage hand already out from telekinetic to push them another 5 feet.
We'll inch them over to that hole. We'll get there. And then I'll close the distance with my movement so they can't, they're not making any progress getting away from that pesky hole.
It's
trying
fantastic.
to get them towards.
just set up a spike pit, have somebody who's a spellcaster use Mold Earth, create some spikes at the bottom of a hole.
What's the one invocation that lets you, when you hit people with Eldritch Blast, you get to push them 10 feet?
Forceful, I think.
Forceful blast or whatever.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. These feats are just too good. Any martial, frontline, whatever. I don't care. I mean, Cade, this would be a great feat for Cade. He's not even a frontline. He's a backline rogue that shoots a bow and arrow, but he deals piercing damage every round. So you might as well just screw some sorry dude's day by just shooting them and having the extra benefits of Piercer along with you.
Now here's the thing. So Piercer, I want to know how you'd rule this, because I don't know how I would rule this. From looking at it and kind of examining it for a minute here.
Okay.
With the critical hit feature that deals an extra additional damage die.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a rogue hitting with a bow, and you get your sneak attack.
Yes. That's okay.
Would you rule it as one additional die or one additional die per die?
So no. So you get the crit, right? Mm-hmm. The way it's worded, right, is when you score a critical hit that deals piercing damage to a creature, you can roll one additional damage die. So by one additional damage die, your damage die with a bow and arrow, depending on your bow, is either a D6 or a D8, right? If it's a short or long bow. So that one additional is either that one D6 or that one D8. Unfortunately, I would argue no, you do not get doubled on sneak attack. You don't get additional. And also it says one additional, right? So you wouldn't even get one additional sneak attack dice. You wouldn't have, like, a 20th level rogue wouldn't have 11 sneak attack dice in that instance either.
Okay, now take this, though. So, now ignoring the fact that it's a rogue with sneak attack, if you have a weapon that is a magical weapon that has various different damage die that all get rolled every hit, how would you do that? Say I have a weapon that does a D8 piercing plus additional like D6 fire damage.
It still does the piercing damage, so you still get the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. Now you listeners can also have learned that.
You go ahead. Go ahead. People with flame tongue. Go ahead, take slasher. Do it. I'm all for it.
So my last one is a little bit branching off of the theme that I've been going with here, but not entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So we're branching off of the theme of spells. However,
gasp.
However, we're sticking on theme with Eldritch Adept and Metamagic Adept.
Michael, we've broken our rules.
By giving you kind of a touch of another class's abilities or expanding even more so on your own within that class. And this one is Fighting Initiate.
Michael, we've broken the unspoken rules.
What is that?
I always cover the martial things, and you always cover the spellcasting things. What do we ever do now?
Oh no. But yeah, so with Fighting Initiate, you do have to have proficiency with a martial weapon to be able to take this feat. Your martial
simple weapons out here.
Yeah. No.
We're the big boys.
You can have simple weapons, but you also have to be proficient with a martial weapon.
Yeah. We're talking the big leagues here.
Yeah. Your martial training has helped you develop a particular style of fighting, or, a particular set of skills, one might say. As a result, you learn one fighting style option of your choice from the fighter class. If you already have a style, the one you choose must be different. Whenever you reach a level that grants the ability score improvement feature, you can replace this feat's fighting style with another one from the fighter class that you do not have. And it's really important there. People would be like, oh yeah, well, why would I take the same one twice? Believe it or not, there's stuff that boosts your AC, boosts your damage for certain types of weapons. They had to add that to make it not broken.
Yeah, it would be real bad if they didn't.
Like if you took the archery fighting style, that gives you a +2 to any roll with, +2 to any damage with an archery weapon.
Yeah.
You can't take that twice. You can't get a +4.
Absolutely absurd.
But yeah, it's a really good one. Once again, I think it's really good for fighters. This one, I do think, though, is just as good for other martial classes.
Yeah. Easy. I mean, people that have fighting style, the ability fighting style, and the people that don't. This is good for, dare I say it, rangers. This is good for paladins. This is good for fighters. This is good for rogues. This is good for monks. This is good for literally any martial class.
Yeah, by the way, if you're a monk, if you didn't know this already, your fists count as a martial weapon.
Kind of, yeah.
To an extent.
It's kind of...
For the purposes of this, they do.
Yeah, sure. It might be a little stretched, but sure. Why not?
However, say you have somebody in your party who has Sentinel, right?
Yeah.
Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. Say you have Sentinel. And you,
believe it or not, Michael, it's not hard for me to imagine.
You have proficiency with a martial weapon, so you can take this feat and get a fighting style, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a fighting style that was added in Tashas, and I want to cover this just because of how great this pairs with Sentinel.
Uh-huh.
It's called Interception. When a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus to a minimum of 0 damage. You must be wielding a shield or a simple or martial weapon to use this reaction. Say you use Sentinel, you try to like stop their attacks or whatnot, their attack goes through. Guess what? They might still not be taking damage. You could just be like, nah, you don't take that. I got you, bro.
I got you, dog. You're good.
Like, that's just incredible to me. And that's just one option that you have with this feat. There's so many options out there.
Yeah. I fully agree. I mean, I like fighting styles already. I think as another one of my favorite parts from Tasha's is how many class feature things that they
Hmm.
add, like fighting styles, invocations, and whatnot. And I mean, there's some really good base ones from the PHB and Xanathars and other books and whatnot. And yeah, I fully agree. These are all really good.
Yeah, I've said this multiple times to multiple people, and I believe I even said it in the YouTube video that we made on Tasha's. I might have said it in another podcast episode, but I'm going to say it again anyways. Tasha's is the biggest book release in terms of character ability, like character options,
Yeah,
since Xanathar's release, possibly even beating out Xanathar's, in
I
my
argue
opinion.
so. Yes, I argue more so. Yeah.
And that is amazing that they have been able to push out such a huge book. There are things that I don't like in the book. There are things that I won't allow in my games, but overall, I think it's a really good book that allows a lot more creativity with your characters.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that is 12 of the 15 feats in this book. We have covered
Didn't even
most of the
cover it.
feats this book gives you.
Yep.
Look into the other 3 and look at all the different character options and how you can start to kind of reshape characters that maybe you had a character idea before Tasha's came out that had all these different things that if only I had this option, if only I was able to take like a metamagic ability as a wizard and just be able to do this one thing, like that would be pivotal for my character. Now you can do it.
Tasha's adds stuff for spellcasters and marshals classes.
Yeah.
Both. Look into it. Poisoner's
is-
great. There's also other ones that we didn't cover, like Gunner's good. Gunner's a good feat. There's also
There's an
Artificer.
Artificer Initiate,
Artificer Initiate.
and there's also
for-
Telepathic.
Yep, telepathic.
Those are the 3 that we did not fully cover today.
Yep.
However, if you do not already have a copy of Tashas Cauldron of Everything, 1, what's wrong with you? 2, go to your local game store.
Yeah.
I know that you could easily purchase it online for cheaper, but we are in hard times during COVID, and being able to go support your local game store, keep them open, keep them in business so that way they can help grow the passion that we have and that we hope you have for games like D&D, other role-playing games, Magic the Gathering, any game like that. Like, these stores are trying to stay in business so that way they can keep the love of these things going, because we've established huge communities in these games. So our local game store, we haven't shouted them out in a while, but we have Forgotten Path Games, and they have been huge supporters for us. 2 of them are actually on our Patreon, and they helped us out by giving us a item that allows us to do a one-shot back, I believe it was session 9 and session 10 that Jake ran.
Yeah.
Go check that out
first
if you
of the
haven't already,
day.
because our one-shots are tons of fun. And that'll also kind of give you an idea of the type of things that you can get at your local game store, you know? That was a product that they gave to us for free, but that they do sell. So, that along with all these D&D books and stuff. But yeah. Speaking of Patreon, thank you, Ben's mom, for being a Patreon donator, being a patron for us. You can, if you are interested in supporting us as well on Patreon, you can go check us out on Patreon at Travelers Tips and Tales, and you get some cool stuff. What kind of stuff can they see on there, Jake?
Well, they can see a whole wide arrangement of stuff. They get access to our Discord at certain tiers. You can look at some of the homebrew that we've built. I mean, there's examples of it on our website, but you get even more from our Patreon. You also get these episodes that you're listening to right now. Literally what you're listening to right now, our Patreon people, they listened to it a day ago. It's old news.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff on our Patreon that you could go check out. You could also arrange like little meetings where you talk to us the Travelers every month and whatnot. There's some cool stuff to go check it out. Go. I just ask. Maybe go check it out. Go look around. You don't have to. You don't have to subscribe or anything. I don't want to push you out of your comfort zone. These are trying times. If you need to save money, I fully understand. You should save your money. But just try and poke your nose around. We got some stuff up that's like visible to everybody, and just go poke your nose around, see what you might like and what you might not. Whatever.
Yeah, and if you do want to support us on Patreon, it would help us a lot because we want to be able to constantly work on creating content for you guys, whether it be YouTube videos or get into live streaming on Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that. That's all stuff that we're working towards, that if you support us on Patreon, it helps us get there a lot faster.
Yeah.
But where else can they find us on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, well, there's a whole lot of places on the interwebs to start, but some of the places that they could find us is on places like YouTube. We upload all of these episodes onto YouTube, and occasionally, very rarely, but occasionally, we also upload a random video that isn't one of our podcast episodes. But you can find us on YouTube at Travelers Tips and Tales. We also upload an occasional meme every now and then, or random updates about the podcast or whatever on Instagram at Travelers Tips and Tales. We also have stuff like a Facebook page and a Tumblr page. Those are Travelers Tips and Tales, both each. We also have a Twitter that we sometimes tweet at. It's at Tips Tales. And we also have an email address if you want to email any questions you have about our podcast or about D&D in general, or just tabletop RPGs in general. We'd love to try and answer all of your questions and anything you have for us at travelerstipsandtales@gmail.com. Also, if you don't feel like going to our Patreon but still want to kind of find out what kind of homebrew stuff that we might be providing for you, you could also find some of that, or even just more information about us in general, who we are and whatnot. You can also look up at travelerstipsandtales.com, our official website, if you'd like to go poke your nose around there if you'd like.
Yeah, and that kind of, there's a little section on the website where you can kind of get to know a little bit about us. We don't have a ton of information there, but there's little snippets about us. And then we also, as far as the homebrew on the website, I try to get a JPEG as well as a PDF to download on there. So that way, if you want to just quick little view of it, you can check it out. And then if you like it, you can download the PDF.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try to keep things going. Please let us know what kind of stuff you want to see us branch out into. I know we're possibly looking into doing some Warhammer videos of Kill Team, if you know what that is. We're also probably going to try and film some games of Magic the Gathering, where it's me and Jake mostly play, but we're trying to get Ben into it as well. We also play with a couple of our other friends. And yeah, it's all a lot of really good times. If you know somebody that might also like our content, please share with them. We're trying to grow our YouTube. We need to get to, a certain number of subscribers as well as watching hours, so that way we can try and start making a little bit of money on YouTube as well. So
yeah,
and that'll also kind of encourage us to do a lot more.
Yeah. Also, if we do post a Kill Team thing, we're all really bad at knowing all the rules of Kill Team, so
yeah, we play very loosely.
We're all really new to Kill Team, so don't expect the same amount of quote unquote professionalism about the information that we're giving out as we do with things like D&D, because we all know D&D very well, but we don't know jack squat about Kill Team most of the time. Uses D6s. I know WoG because I play orcs. That's the important one. But yeah.
And you know what? If you made it this far into the episode, tell us your favorite Kill Team. Tell us your favorite faction. All right.
Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Until next time. Adventure awaits.